Carolina storyteller tells stories that may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Stay spooky, my friends. Welcome back to the show, folks. I am the Carolina storyteller, Jonathan Phoenix. Happy to have you here with me today. I've got a really interesting story for you today that I can't wait to get into, so we're going to just go ahead and jump right into it instead of doing the whole intro stuff. We'll do all that at the end. You know, one of the great things about living in Charleston is that there's a history to the place, history that goes back almost 400 years. I mean, think about it. Charleston was built originally in the late 1600s is when it was started. So it makes sense that there would be ghost stories that go back that far. There is a building in Charleston, and it is the oldest wood-building structure in the city of Charleston, possibly in the state. It has been there since 1715. 1715. So if you think about that, that's more than 300 years ago this structure was built. The Dr. John Lenning House corresponded with Benjamin Franklin about scientifically monitoring the weather and observing the weather as it hit Charleston. Now, this house was somewhere near Meeting in King Street, where Meeting in King Street would be. And it was designed as a 2.5-story building, because if you built that, that was a minimum requirement to get your deed from the king. It was a New England style, had 4 rooms on the main floors, so 4 on the first floor, 4 on the second floor, and then the half story, which was built inside the roof pretty much, was only 3 bedrooms. The rooms were separated by a hallway that ran central to the building, north and south. So as you went up the staircase that was in this main hall on the second floor, typically it would, kind of split. But there was a piece of floor that was kind of built off with the handrail, oddly, in this house, that went out towards the central window. And this would allow access to that window, but also give you the ability to kind of look out and see to the north. And then, of course, to the south of the second floor, hidden behind a door to the parlor, was a small staircase that led to the third floor, where there were, again, only 3 rooms, which would be the rooms used generally for children, their playrooms and where they would sleep and things like that. That was the whole design of this home. This home was originally built in the late 1600s, and the original owner of the home, when she sold it, was not considered to be of sound mind. Now, the reason being is because she finally sold the home right after the Yamasee Indian uprising. And this is where hostile tribes had kind of had enough of the white man pulling some stuff, and they kind of attacked the city. Now, the city of Charleston was built inside the peninsula, even though it was founded outside of the peninsula. They kind of looked over and saw the peninsula and said, hey, it'd be better if we built everything in there. So they moved it into the peninsula that is now Charleston and built up walls around the initial city. But where this house would be, which is what is now, I believe, 106 Broad Street, was just within sight of those walls, but also just outside of them. So this lady of the house, during this uprising, when the Indians were attacking, it is believed that she had to live there and listen as her family members were slaughtered and skinned alive. And they believe that this event left her mind shattered. So she could not care for herself, let alone care for the house. So after only 10 years of living in the house was sold. And at first, there was no mention of there being a ghost. It wasn't until after the lady passed on that people began to notice strange happenings. One account is from someone who lived in the house back in the 1970s. As they said, they used the children in these houses. The children would usually stay on the third floor. They'd get to go upstairs where they were out of sight, out of mind, basically. And the way the room was designed on the third floor, the chimneys for fireplaces would be in the middle of the house, and they would run all the way up the house. So that if you had a fireplace on the first floor, you could have a fireplace on the second floor and a fireplace on the third floor running up that chimney. So this room that's on the third floor is kind of built in a U shape around this chimney that would probably be dividing two other rooms downstairs, but because of the turn in the floor and the way things were laid out on the upstairs and this third floor, it's in the middle of the room. Now, he had his bed to one side of the room, and at night he would stay up well past his bedtime with a small light reading. And he began to notice that every night at the same time, the light in his room would turn off. He could turn it right back on, but it would just cut off by itself. It was a lamp. That was when he started exploring the history of the house. And see, it makes sense, he said, because every night at 10 o'clock at night, as it would get dark, the lights in the house would all get turned off, including his. Now, he could turn it back on, and sometimes it would turn right back off. But it was a common occurrence that when there was an attack going on, to cut off all the lights in the house, because then they couldn't be able to out the lights. They wouldn't be able to see you in the house. You'd have a better chance of hiding. So it makes sense that this ghost, who has been there since the 1700s, was going around turning off lights. Of course, everybody else in the house would be asleep, but he was up late, and that's why he was the only one who noticed it, he says. Now, there have been other reports of strange sounds and noises in the house. But this, if it is true, would be Charleston's oldest ghost story, running all the way back to 1715, to the initial foundations of Charleston. This would be the first ghost story of the city of Charleston. The ghost in this house was flipping lights on and off. Anyway, that was the story I wanted to tell you guys. It's not a long story. I know the last one was short, this one's short. But it's really interesting that this house that was built more than 300 years ago may actually be the first ghost story in the city of Charleston. There's so many stories in that city. I mean, Blackbeard's been there. You've had pirates that have been hung there. Anne Bonny's ghost is supposedly haunting a warehouse over there. The story of Lavanya Fisher. Who's the woman in white if it's not Lavanya Fisher? You know, there's a woman in white that walks the streets of Charleston. Pirates on the Battery. Poogan's porch. There's a dog that sits on a porch. It's a ghost dog. All of these stories. You know, the old city jail, the old dungeons, the angel tree, all of them. And this may be the oldest one amongst them. This may be the first official Charleston ghost story. Even though it's not told very much, it may actually be the oldest, because it dates so far back, and there's not actually one that seems to go before it. And I need to make a correction, because it was sold in 1715. It was built in 1690, and Charleston was founded in 1670. So it was relatively new to the city, and the city was still relatively new. But along that Indian Trail, during the uprising in 1715, everything went nuts. This woman had to sit there and watch her family be slaughtered. And now she haunts this house, this building that has stood for more than 300 years in downtown Charleston. And if you've ever been down there, you know there are houses that are, that have been there since the city was founded. And this is apparently the oldest one still standing. So if you get a chance and you go down to Charleston, go look for the oldest standing wooden structure in the city of Charleston, the oldest standing wooden structure in the state, apparently. Wooden European structure in the state, should I say. And yeah, go check that out. Definitely. Just want to give you guys a heads up. We've added a couple of cast interviews for Valmont to the Patreon. It's patreon.com/TheCarolinaStoryteller. You can go there right now. You can hear interviews from Corey Bishop and E.C. Hart. We've also got them from Edella Valentine and me. They've got me interviewed, which I didn't think was going to happen. And you can check all that out by going to patreon.com/TheCarolinaStoryteller. You can listen to behind the scenes stuff. You can find out extras on episodes, all kinds of neat stuff. There's merch that you get after being there for so long. So definitely go check it out. Support the podcast. Patreon.com/TheCarolinaStoryteller. Valmont, the Black Raven Chronicles, is in production right now. We are finishing up episode 1. Going to go work on episode 2. It still is not coming out till December 1st, 2024. So you've got plenty of time to get ready and get hyped for this amazing story. The cast is super excited. The crew is super excited. I am super excited because I wrote this. So definitely go and check out some of that behind the scenes stuff and mark your calendars. December 1st, 2024, Valmont, the Black Raven Chronicles will be hitting everywhere that I can get it out to. That's our show for today. Another short one, so stay spooky, my friends. We'll see you next time.